Student Rep Alex Gilbert,
Here.
and Student Rep Isabella Malik.
She said she would be here, but might be a little bit late.
She was on there.
Oh, was
Yeah,
she?
I
Okay,
don't-
sorry, I didn't see
Maybe
her.
she's not. Maybe she's muted.
She's muted.
Good.
And Mayor Keough.
Here. Good evening, everyone. Item C on the agenda this evening is approval of the meeting minutes from our regular city council meeting of August 24th, 2020. I see that Mr. Smith has his hand up. Thank you, Jim.
I'll move to approve the minutes of August 24th.
Okay, motion by Smith,
Second,
second by Ms. Knight.
yes.
Thank you both. Mr. Smith, any comments?
I have one correction on page 3 of the minutes. Under I-5, under the city manager report, under the 4th bullet, where it says, I recently, and then it says, as a council and educational video. I would replace as a with shared with or sent.
I will use shared with. I think that's good.
Okay. And that's the only correction I had tonight.
Okay. Julie, anything of note?
No, I didn't say anything.
Okay, other council members? Okay, seeing none, Ms. Jones, please call the vote to approve the minutes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Knight,
Yes,
Smith,
Yes.
Bell,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Cousins,
Yes.
and Keough.
Yes. Thank you. The meeting minutes are approved. We have no prearranged participation this evening. So we're down to item E, which is approval of our agenda for this evening. Mr. Bell, I saw your hand first, and then Mr. Smith.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
I'll support.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion on the agenda? Okay, seeing none. Ms. Jones, if you'd call the vote to approve the agenda?
Yes. Bell,
Yes.
Cousins,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Knight,
yes.
Keough.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries. We have an agenda. We have no public hearings this evening, so we're down to non-arranged participation. This is the first of two options or two opportunities on the agenda for those in the audience to speak on any topic. Is there anyone that would like to speak this evening? If so, please use the raise hand feature on your Zoom, the bottom of the participants screen on the right-hand side, or if you're dialing in, I believe it's *9 on your cell phone. Justin, I'm not seeing any names or anything flash. Are you? Or hands?
I'm not seeing anyone.
Okay. If we'll keep going then. There were two communications in the packet this evening. Our upcoming meeting list and a letter from the surviving members of our Charter Commission who have taken a position on the Charter Amendment ballot proposal. Any discussion on the communications this evening? I'm not seeing any hands, so we'll keep moving right along. We're into reports. Well, before we go to reports, I would like to just say that I fully agree with the former Charter Commission members. I think that the language that's proposed is way too broad and unnecessary. So happy to see them coming out with that position, frankly. Our first report tonight is from our Public Services Superintendent. Dan, how are you?
Good. Good evening, Council. I provided you with a written report, and I also have some updates on ongoing projects that are closing fast for us, hopefully. I'd like to start with the updates. Hudson and Grand, I don't know if you've been able to drive down it. We have good growth on the grass. We also had Cadillac that did the asphalt for us come in late last week. We had a couple spots in the roads where the stone was coming through the asphalt. They have a pull behind machine that they run off of propane to heat that asphalt back up, break the rocks out. I think it looks a lot better than what it did. The other alternative to that would have been to cut the asphalt out, which we did not want to do. That would just give us more crack sealing that we'd have to do in the future. I know we gave TLS a preliminary, that's a contractor that's working on that site, a preliminary punch list. I have not heard back from OHM and I haven't had any correspondence with them when they're coming back to hit the punch list items. Any questions on Grand and Hudson?
It makes a huge difference with all those trees down on Grand.
It does. I think we're going to be here shortly, be replacing a few of them.
Good.
The next project I'd like to talk about is our concrete contractor that's been in town for, I think, 3 weeks now, J&B. Today, they were out in Dexter Crossings doing some removals. They also think that they might have all the concrete done this week. I'm thinking more maybe the beginning of next week, but we'll see how that goes. We still, after they get done with the concrete, we still got restoration and then a walkthrough to make sure everything meets our standards. Any questions on J&B?
Are they doing a better job of washing out where they're supposed to, Dan?
Actually, they can't, yes, they are. And they have filters now for if they do run into a problem, that they can put this matte filter down that will filter out what we don't want down the storm drains. Also, they came through and they did a once over with a power washer. And we've actually asked them to come back and hit a couple of those spots because they're not as good as what we would like them to look like.
Good, thank you.
When I talked to the contractor and the owner, they were very apologetic because they knew that we had talked to them about that. So I'm thinking that's behind us now and taken care of. The next project's Forest Street. We've got good growth on that road also. I haven't really heard anything from any residents besides positive on DeWolf coming in and helping us out with that. He was in late last week. We had that good rain last week. He came in and he hit a few spots. But I also need to walk that. I was going to give it another week and then look at it. But he came in, put some topsoil down and spots. The grass wasn't coming up real well. But I think it looks, all in all, it looks pretty good. Any questions on that? OHM received a phone call from Granger on the Dexter School project on Dan Hoy Road. We've been sending quite a few emails trying to finish up on the utilities punch list over there. We met with a new gentleman. His first name was Taylor from Granger, very nice guy. We were able to walk through the entire site with all our utilities, and he has an accurate punch list. We have not heard back from him yet. I'm presuming it's going to be pretty quick on when they're going to get to all them items, which there isn't a great deal, but there's a few. Any questions on that?
None from me.
I hate to say this, but summer's over. We're hoping the next couple of weeks to start flushing hydrants.
Oh, wow.
Seems like it went by pretty quick, doesn't it?
It does.
Also, I have a few items that are going to be in the packets over the next month. Some preventative maintenance stuff that we've been working on that we budgeted for. One of the items is pulling a high service pump down to filter plant. Another one is we're going to pull a well and inspect it and clean it out at Ryan Drive. We have a transfer switch at Ryan Drive Well House. We want to change the transfer switch and put an adapter on there so if someday the generator goes out there, the backup generator we have there will have a plug, our generator can plug in. So we'll have some double security on making sure that Ryan Drive Well House can operate under any condition. Also, we've got some preventative maintenance that we need to do on 2 of our activated sludge pumps at the wastewater plant. And them items there should be coming up in the next month for you guys to look at before we actually get the work done. That's it for my updates and my preventative maintenance. Do you have any questions on my written report?
Dan, what's the meeting with F&V up on the Iron Pond?
We budgeted some money to do some maintenance on the Iron Pond. And we had a wall, the backside of the one wall of the pond had blown out about a year ago. And we haven't been using it because we were connected to the sewer that goes down to the wastewater treatment plant. But we've noticed our filter plant is not only an iron removal plant, it's also an arsenic removal plant. And we've been teetering right a little bit over on what we can land apply our arsenic to the fields when we haul our sludge from the wastewater treatment plant. So originally we were going to go in and just get the pond fixed and get the iron taken out, and then called F&V to make sure that the fix that we're going to make on this pond is going to be permanent, and just get a little help from them on putting something together on what we expect the contractor to do when they make that repair on that on the pond itself.
Okay.
So what happened is we had HM had figured out our arsenic loading that attaches to the iron, and when they did the calculations, I didn't catch it, but they only calculated on what our average is over 12 months, and they didn't average in what it was going to be over them 4 or 5 months during the summer when we use 2 or 3 times as much water. And I think that's what's kind of elevated it down at the wastewater treatment plant for us. So if we can get the iron pond up and working, we can settle that iron along with the arsenic. We can put it in there for 4 or 5 months, and then the rest of the time we can still send it down to the wastewater treatment plant and meet all our limits for our sludge to be land applied.
Thanks, Dan.
But we will get back to you. We're still working through the details on that. But once I get something together, I'll talk to Courtney and then we'll get it to you guys.
Okay.
I think Zach had his hand up.
Oh, I missed it. Sorry, I'm staring right at, there it is. Go ahead, Zach. Thank you.
I'm not sure if you've been out there, but to my eyes, it looked like the boardwalk for the Mill Creek Trail next to the Lions parking lot appears to be several inches higher than the sidewalk. Is that an optical illusion, or are they still doing some work to get that ADA happy?
Actually, we caught that a couple meetings ago, and the contract, well, first of all, I think it was overlooked by the contractor and OHM when they did it. But one of the meetings about a month ago, we noticed that. And the contractor's bid price to do that is, I don't know, double, 3 times what we're getting done with the J&B and the sidewalk in the city. So we're going to do that with our contractor, and actually it's going to start tomorrow. We were waiting for them to get done with restoration and get all that heavy equipment out there so we could redo 6 or 7 slabs there, and then go down on the 2 or 3 where they're running the big trucks and the heavy machinery in and out of that work zone. So starting tomorrow, J&B is going to be down there redoing all that kind of stuff.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good question, Zach. Are there other questions out there for Dan? Student reps included. Okay, Dan, thanks for a good report. We'll
Thank you.
do our community development manager report. Michelle, how are you?
I'm fine. Good evening, Council. How are you doing?
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess that'll do. So I'll do a quick verbal update for you because it piggybacks on Dan's. As far as the trees on Grand Street go, every tree that was taken down is being replaced. And that actually will be occurring over the next couple of weeks. You'll notice some flags. Kurt's crew is going to be putting flags out in front of the different location or the different homes where trees were taken down, so the contractor knows where on that particular lot the new tree has to go. Excuse me. So that's going to happen in the next couple of weeks, and it won't look quite so bare like it does right now, Sean. As
No,
far
I
as
actually thought it looked good.
well, the new road really does look great,
Yeah,
so it kind
it
of
looked
takes away
healthy.
from. But if you ask Matt Kowalski, he's going to tell you he's really missing his tree. So
Yeah. No, we should put
Okay.
them back. I just thought it looked good.
yes. So there's a few things in my, well, before I go on, does anybody have any questions on the trees? Okay, so what's in my report, and I realize it's lengthy, there's a lot of details to get into. The social districts, you had all had some very good questions and concerns at the last meeting. I've been able to refine the information, get more information, clarify things with the Liquor Control Commission. And so what you have now are two alternative maps, one that concentrates just on the downtown and the other that concentrates on a little bit larger area. And the reason for the two is the Liquor Control Commission looks at the social district the same way DDAs and TIF district boundaries are looked at. The DDA district is one large district. It's all the properties you want within that, in the DDA district, in that boundary. The TIF district can be the same, or it can be small pockets within the district boundary. So your social district and your common areas work the same way. So for the alternative A, the expanded downtown, what you see is a larger expanded downtown. It includes the 4 businesses that could qualify for the permit if this is something the city decides to go through. And it has 4 corresponding common areas. I'm sorry, there are 5 businesses that could qualify and 4 corresponding common areas. Beer Grotto and Aubrey's would have, because they're on the same side of the street, have the opportunity to share a common area. In the smaller, more limited downtown, it is just the 3 that we talked about at the last meeting, Dexter's Pub, Beer Grotto, and Aubrey's. So it's a smaller district, but it's the same 2 small common areas. One would be shared by Beer Grotto and Aubrey's, and the other would be Dexter Pub. The questions regarding the loss of handicap parking, we could make that common area slightly smaller and just relocate those spaces. If you could see, I think you can see the image on my report. You can see where I've identified where those 4 spaces could temporarily be relocated. I know that the businesses that could potentially qualify for the permits through the Liquor Control Commission all are on board. Getting through to some of the other businesses as to how they feel about this being in front of their business. It's only going to be on the Dexter Pub side of the road, so it's going to be the karate studio, Dexter Creamery, and then Artistica and the real estate office that's there. I have not gotten their feedback yet, but I am working on it. Dairy Queen will be closed in another month, so this wouldn't go into effect until after that anyway, at least as I foresee it in my mind's eye. Signage is part of the management plan for a social district. It has to be in numerous places. It's really up to us how elaborate we go or how basic. And we can engage the businesses to help with that. So where the district boundary might end for excuse me, at Dexter Pub, the common area, there'd be a sign on their on the facade of their building identifying that no alcohol beyond a certain point. Same within the Clock Plaza. There'd be standing signs, and one close to a sidewalk, so that people would know you can't go beyond. And having the businesses help with that signage, or even co-sponsoring that signage, I think that's something that is doable, but is also a smart move for all of us. Crowd control is something that we're responsible for. But that doesn't mean that the local businesses don't play a role. We could require the participating businesses to provide tables and chairs. We can restrict the public or the patrons from these different businesses from bringing their own chairs in and disrupting the social distancing that needs to happen. Excuse me. And then hours of operation, that really is up to the municipality. They can mirror what business hours are, or you could limit them so that Monday through Thursday, for example, 4 to 10 p.m. That's going to be more of the prime time that people are utilizing the spaces during the week. And then you could expand it for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and allow it to be more noon to 10 if that was something that council was comfortable with. Excuse me. I've outlined what the factors for your consideration are, what the Liquor Control Commission's process for application is from the city, and then what your next steps are. So let me know if you've got any questions on this and what direction, if any, you've got for staff, please.
Go ahead, Jim. I see your hands up.
Yeah. What's the time period of this, we thinking? You know, how long would this go on?
That's up for you to decide.
Because, I mean, are you thinking all winter long?
Well, this initially sort of germinated out of that, those questions as to how can we help the businesses through the winter months when they still can only have 50% indoors if they no longer have outdoor seating in the winter. We don't have we've already decided, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that continuing to close the on-street parking isn't really a viable option, being that it's not, there's a safety component associated.
That would not be good.
Right, it wouldn't be good. How are you going to plow the snow?
Right.
We've already talked about that. So our sidewalks aren't wide enough to have individual little pods, if you will, or igloos for people to have outdoor seating. And Liquor Control Commission at this point, with their extension of their emergency or their limited outdoor seating, excuse me, for expanded areas, will not allow any type of enclosure, an open-sided tent, or even these little igloos. So it's looking more like the options for helping our businesses through the winter are really limited, and this social district may be one that could be done. But there's
Michelle,
a lot of stuff to figure out.
Okay. Another question I have is, in comparing A and B, and I'm looking specifically at the Beer Grotto and Aubrey's, the use of the parking lot there. under A, it's using half the parking lot, and I can see where you gave the illustration of moving the handicap spaces. But under A, it extends for the whole depth of the parking lot.
You
I mean,
you
under
mean
B.
B. Yeah, no, that was just an error on my part.
Okay.
It should only be halfway.
Okay, now is traffic proceeding through there?
No,
So you're closing off that,
you'd be closing off that portion, yes.
and maybe we should consider using one side or the other of the parking lot to allow traffic still to flow through there.
You're still going to have the problem though, Jim, having those water well barricades and the pushing of the snow. I don't think it's going to work.
Okay. Under A, I'm very hesitant to use any part of Monument Park for this. And I'm also concerned about using the area around the clock. I would rather see us use the farmer's market area rather than around the clock. Rather than, to me, that's more of a, should be an open public space for people to, flow freely through that area.
The problem with, the idea of using the farmer's market pavilion area makes a lot of sense. The problem is people leaving the pub, because those would be the patrons to use it. They can't cross the street. Liquor Control Commission won't allow a crossing. You could close off a portion of Alpine Street instead of using the Clock Plaza.
Could something be worked out with people that own the parking lot behind the pub?
That would be, so the social district and the common areas are only public spaces. So if the pub and Alex Wallace, who owns that property behind him, excuse me, wanted to apply, then that would fall under the temporary uses structures that I do administratively, like we did with Chela's and with Northern United.
Yeah, I would prefer they do something like that rather than try to use the space by the clock and like that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle, what I'm trying to follow this a little bit, but I'm stumbling on something simple, I'm sure. What do you do in a common area?
You sit.
What happens in a common area?
It's where the patrons of the establishments, we'll take Beer Grotto and Aubrey's as an example, would be able to go and consume the beverages that they have purchased from either of those two places of business.
Okay, but the Beer Grotto patron can't go sit in the common area 1?
Correct. Well, they could. They can't take the beverage they got from Aubrey's or Beer Grotto.
Right.
They can leave one place to go to another. They just can't take their libation with them.
So what's the logic in the boundary? I mean, the boundary looks.
Which boundary are we talking? One?
I guess so. Then what's the advantage of drawing the social district so large?
So that it encompasses the 5 potential permittees, their current license holders, that could apply for a permit if the city were to set up a social district.
Okay, but I mean, for example, like the DAPCO property, the what we commonly call 3045 Broad.
Right. I guess I was looking
What's the
longer
benefit?
out.
What's the benefit? I mean, can I go drink a beer there?
Well,
Well, I mean, Erratic Ales is back there.
Well,
Correct.
but that's a blue area. As
Right.
I'm understanding common area, that's the blue area, but I mean, look at we've got the social district boundary all the way across Broad, almost to the park.
so part of what I've done is just set up a boundary of potential properties for the social district and some areas where the common areas could go. If you wanted to make all of 3045 Broad Street a common area, you could do that. You'd have to have the social district boundaries there as well. If you did not want to include the boundaries of 3045 Broad, you could have me change that. It's just spaghetti on the wall, Sean.
Okay, well, I'm trying to understand it, but I mean, if I buy a beer at Erratic Ales, I can't cross Broad Street with it anyway, right?
Correct.
So what good? Why are we?
I'm sorry, I misspoke when I said you could make it a common area. You couldn't make it a common area.
Well, then why do we draw it in?
Again, I looked at this as a long-term. What if you set up this social district and these common areas, excuse me, are opened and closed at different times of the year, and 3045 Broad Street gets developed? You already have a boundary set up. It's a very long view of it, but that was my rationale.
But I thought that we limit. To Jim's question, I mean, you're thinking that we would have a time period longer than the winter?
For the common areas to actually be open, you could establish, as far as I know, you could establish your social district and you determine how long that's going to go out. At right now, if I remember correctly, it goes out to 2024. The state, through the Liquor Control Commission, allows the permits to be through December 31st, 2024.
So the benefit of the social district is just future opportunity if you
Correct.
have it.
Correct.
But it's not necessary to be that big.
Correct, absolutely.
And it can always be modified in the future.
Yeah, I presume that it can be, yes.
So can I buy beer from the old BP gas station and bring it down the street to the beer grotto?
No.
Why not?
It's
It
not
has to be
packaged, it's not packaged product. So it's for those businesses alone that are licensed to sell an alcoholic beverage or beverages for consumption on site. But the social district allows them to sell for consumption, immediate consumption,
Okay.
in this common area or in the common areas.
You couldn't take a beer from the BP down to Beer Grotto and sit outside in their outdoor seating now
Correct.
either.
Right, I get that.
And you couldn't set up a common area for BP because
They don't
it's a
have the light.
packaged alcohol distributor.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, the red area seems a lot bigger than necessary if we're considering going forward with it. I see a lot of area that if you can't cross the street, I wouldn't include a lot of properties.
Okay.
I mean,
can
it
come back
would be my call. I don't know what others are thinking. Scott, I see you have your hand up.
Thanks. I just wanted to state my support for the idea. Michelle, if I'm understanding correctly, the social district has to be continuous, right?
The social district has to be contiguous, yes.
Yeah.
The common areas have to be within it.
Okay. Yeah, I understand Sean's point. And, I think it could be it could be tweaked. I don't have a strong opinion about that, but I do support the concept. And I think it could go a long way to help some of these businesses over the winter. And I would also like to verify each business has to apply to the city in order to take advantage of this. We're
So
not just-
they're applying to us, but they're also applying to the Liquor Control Commission.
right,
They
so
have
we
to have our approval to get theirs.
we have some control over the process and the ability to potentially revoke those permits
Absolutely,
if it's abused or mismanaged in some way.
correct.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Donna Fisher, I see you have your hand up, please.
Yes. Have you done anything to talk to businesses that are not social businesses and to collect their thoughts on their downtown as well? Is everybody unified on the idea that this is the direction we should go?
Like I
You're
am
a
in the,
bakery or you're a barber or karate studio?
I'm in the process of compiling, getting that input and compiling that information.
The one
Right.
in progress? Okay.
So that you know which ones have no problem with it versus which ones maybe they don't like the idea, you know, and that's fair. That really is. Like I said, the example I gave earlier for those businesses adjacent to the pub, you know, they may not like people walking from the pub on the sidewalk to the to the clock tower and being able to consume a beverage in front of their business. They may just not like it. And I understand that.
If we talk about using the clock area, who would provide the chairs and tables, or it just would be people standing?
It can be people standing. We can work with those businesses to provide, for them to provide the tables and chairs. It could be a combination. It could be that you don't have any tables and chairs and people just stand. It depends on, it just depends on what you really want. How do you want it to function?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Zach, I see your hand.
I'm comfortable with A as it's presented right now.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope, just it provides greater flexibility for the future. You know, what the folks in Red Brick may want to do something, or whatever goes in there may want to do something in the future. It'll be good to provide relief. I don't think closing off drive through the parking lot between Beer Grotto and Dairy Queen is going to cause collapse of Dexter civilization for a couple of months. We've managed with a couple of parking spaces closed on Main Street. So I think it's good and useful to do this, and best to allow it for as many as possible.
It would be, I'm sorry, Zach, I didn't know, are you finished?
Yep.
It would be very helpful for staff if we could have input from all of council on the boundaries. At this point, I've got one person saying they like it and two people feeling that it should be a little smaller. So having a consensus of council would be very helpful, please.
Yeah, Michelle, my questions are really just trying to understand, you know, I mean, how progressive the thought is. I mean, you know, there's certain areas here that I just don't understand why they would be drawn in. If they sell packaged goods, I mean, the gas station's never going to turn, right? I mean, the gas station's never going to turn. I mean, it's never going to turn into something other than a.
Well, it could, but probably not within the time frame that this program is tied to. So for something like that, sure, I can take the gas station out. That's not a problem.
Well, I mean, if you can't cross the street to get to someplace, I don't know. You know, it just seems.
Well, you can cross the street to get you You
To do
can't
nothing.
cross the street to get to the common area. So, like I said, a patron with a beverage from the pub can't cross the street and go consume it in common area number 2. But a person could consume a beverage at the pub, throw away their cups, walk across the street, down the Broad Street Parkway, all the way down to Erratic Ale, get a beverage there and consume it in the common area adjacent to Erratic Ale.
Right, but it doesn't, as long as it's contiguous, the district gets established, but practically speaking, there's no benefit to the patron.
Correct. The district benefits the city and its potential businesses. That's how I look at it. But again, whatever is council's pleasure, I can modify the boundaries however you want them.
Okay, Scott, you have your hand up again, I see, please.
Thanks. Michelle, if I understand correctly, the enabling legislation requires that you establish a social district, which then allows you to establish common areas.
Correct.
So the social district doesn't have any functional purpose other than just allowing you to take advantage of the legislation.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. So it's just an overlay.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
John, Paul.
Go ahead, Paul.
Well, my philosophy is, Michelle, is that the greatest good for the greatest number, including patrons and particularly the businesses. So anything that we can develop that will give the businesses in the downtown area, in fact, the whole city, an opportunity to survive, to expand, to be able to get through this, as well as the patrons to be able to participate in that is what I want. Okay, so fill in the blanks any way you want to. From my point, crossing streets, not crossing streets, I think is eliminated, but anything else, that's what my philosophy is. Greatest good for the greatest number on both sides.
Okay.
Any other questions on the social district common area boundaries or discussion? Okay, Michelle, floor is still yours.
Okay, so the next thing is the short-term rental update. Excuse me. The Planning Commission has gone through this. It's something they've been working on for the last almost a year, and they've been very diligent. Staff, especially Mike, has done the heavy lifting to get this ordinance drafted. Excuse me. And the Planning Commission did recommend approval to council. So you have in your packet with my memo a summary table. It has, there's one update that didn't make it in before your packet went out, and that was the information, excuse me, for signage. So I will provide you with that updated table. I'll just email it out. If you've got any questions, if something doesn't make sense, let Mike or I know. We are happy to set up a Zoom call or meet you one-on-one so that you're comfortable understanding exactly what the Planning Commission has recommended to you. And let me know if you've got any questions currently.
Michelle, does the term accessory apply within the primary structure?
So the term accessory short-term housing is used because the principal use of the building is a residence, And this use that somebody may want to do is accessory to that principle. So that's why it's called accessory. I know with the bed and breakfast, if you have a detached structure that currently exists, a bed and breakfast could utilize that detached structure as additional guest rooms. Mike, you'll have to help me with this because I don't remember if the short-term rental housing allowed detached accessory structures to be utilized or not. So Justin, can you unmute Mike for a moment?
Hello?
Yep, we can hear you.
They do. If it's an existing legally non-conforming detached accessory structure, then yes, it would be permitted.
And where does it define short term?
In section 202, I think both the definitions for the accessory short-term rental housing and the vacation rental housing establish that time frame.
Of less than 30 days.
Correct.
And we don't regulate anything beyond 30 days.
Okay. On the bed and breakfast,
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to read through the planning commission stuff that's not in this packet, but in the other one. Are they allowed to serve dinner?
Bed and breakfast is traditionally breakfast, but if they do serve, the way the definition is written, the way the regs are written, meals are permitted, but they can only be served to the guests.
So it doesn't preclude 3 meals a day.
Right, it's up to that innkeeper.
Okay. What's a local agent?
Essentially a secondary contact who the property owner would designate to, or as someone who could essentially take responsibility for the property in the event we're unable to contact the property owner. And only the vacation rental housing would require the designation of a local agent.
That's fairly common in bed and breakfast.
It doesn't apply in a bed and breakfast.
Paul, did you mean the short-term rental?
Right, it's short-term rental, right.
Okay. For the bed and breakfast, the proprietor, the owner of the property and the structure live on site.
Correct.
So is owner operator a different thing than permanent residence?
A little bit. A permanent resident could either be, well, a permanent resident doesn't have to be the property owner. They could be a long-term tenant. But with the bed and breakfast, the actual property owner has to be living on site and be the operator.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
I think that is the ones that I wanted to touch on with you. The rest of my report, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Then that's it for me.
I'm not seeing any. Thanks, Michelle. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Michelle.
Zach has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I missed it. Go ahead, Zach. Sorry about that.
Were you able to follow up on the Liquor Control Commission's extension of the temporary seating?
No, I have not had a chance to call them, but I do think that we should probably sit down to talk about what we need to do as a city. Our emergency order ends October 15th. So we're going to have to figure out that we're going to have to come up with a new order for you all to extend we're gonna have to come up with a new emergency order for you to put in place in order for the businesses to remain open through the period of time that Liquor Control Commission has allowed an extension, which is November 30th, if I remember correctly.
All right, thank you.
Do you think we could see a draft of that at the next meeting?
That's what I'm hoping for, yes.
Okay, great, thanks. Thank you. Okay, you're all set, Michelle?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. Are there any board, commission, other reports? We didn't have any highlighted.
I've got a couple of comments, Sean. The Dexter area Chamber Commerce area comment there is that the Dexter Rotary Chamber / Rotary golf outing is this Thursday at Hudson Mills, and it conflicts with a message I just got about an open house that is in the industrial park. So maybe that could be changed. I don't know, but I'll just make the comment and we'll go from there. That has been on the books for close to 2.5 to 3 months. Okay. And then the other one that's really important as well is that the WAVE board has hired a new executive director. I think I mentioned before that Michaeline has retirement at the end of October. We've hired a person named Julia Roberts. She's worked with the Ann Arbor Transportation Group for 10 years, and we're extremely happy and lucky to have her, to be quite honest. Okay, she's lived in the area for 15 years, and you will be meeting her. She's going to make contact with both Courtney and Sean, as well as call all the board members as well to talk to them as well. So when you meet her, welcome her to Dexter and give her your opinion about the WAVE and what you think could be better, and she'll be happy to hear it. Tell you that for sure.
Thanks, Paul. Any other updates from anybody associated with those commission reports? Seeing none, I'll move on to the city manager report. Courtney, are you ready?
I am.
Welcome.
Just a couple quick updates. We're still moving forward with DTE on the closing for the property where the substation was, and then that would also be the Dan Hoy property. ASTI just finished an updated phase 1 because our old one was too old, and they're also under contract to do a BEA, a baseline environmental assessment, and a due care plan. So they're going to start working on those, and we hope we've gotten title work, so we're really hoping to be able to close on that property soon. We're working on what I would call an on-call landscaping bid for next season, so that we would have a landscape company that could help kind of supplement the work that Judy does. And when we have a larger task that we need, we would have somebody that's gone through a bid process and that we could use to call on to do sort of the odds and ends things that we find we're having trouble keeping up on. So we're working on that and hope to be able to put that out just to get an idea of who might be out there that would be interested in doing something like that. Probably a lot of it would be hourly, but think bigger projects like mulching the beds, things that just take a while and could be done probably a little bit quicker. We will have some Central Street invoices in this fiscal year, so I didn't include them in the budget. But we didn't pay out to MDOT everything by the end of June, which is not surprising. Their invoicing runs behind. So we probably will need a budget amendment just to finish paying off Central Street. And that's, like I said, just the fiscal year splits. We're working on the no parking signage. It'll need to go in the school parking lot near the trail. That was something that was in the agreement. So Justin and Kurt are working on that. We are up to 53% of voters who requested absentee ballots. We're over 1,800 now, 1,827. So they keep coming in more and more every day. I mentioned the Hotel Hickman lease. I was just going to approach Scott about renewing that at its current rate, but we do need to have a public hearing before we can finalize it. And I think that's about it. I don't know if anybody has any comments on the new signal, but I think it seems to be working well at Baker and Maine. And oh, we're almost done with the newsletter, so hopefully that will go out sometime soon here. So the main story on the cover is the leaf collection that we do and just the dates for the leaf collection, bagged leaf collection and loose leaf collection, so that everyone, hopefully most of the residents, are on the same page with those dates.
Have we established a date for the other big pickup?
Yeah, it's October 19th,
Thank you.
third Monday in October.
Zach has his hand up.
Oh, go ahead, Zach, sorry.
Just something I'll throw out there to consider for the landscaping company is it might be useful to see if they could also help if you've got a yard that has long grass. So you can have that standing contract, so you send out the thing and then you don't have to try to track down a guy mower for every one. You've got one for the whole year.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We could include that. That's the kind of general, just odd services that, that's a good one. We thankfully don't have to use it very often, but we did last summer, so.
Other questions for Courtney? Okay. I will move down to my report. I don't have much to add this evening. I did find out over the weekend that Scott Stewart is going to step down from the Planning Commission. So we'll advertise that opening, and I'll dust off the list of past people that have been interested / applied, and we'll get a recommendation back in front of you here within a meeting or two. Does anybody have any questions for me on anything? We do have I guess I could mention, we did get the next date for our Dexter Area Fire Department union negotiation meeting set. There's a meeting tomorrow at 4:30. We alternate between meetings with our group and then meetings together with them. So back and forth. Okay, seeing no questions for me, thank you. Paul, you had a report in the packet under.
No additional comments. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Yep, you're welcome. So we are down to consent agenda on page 3 of the agenda. There's 4 items on the consent agenda. Jim
Hey,
Smith,
Sean.
I see you have your hand up.
Before we start that, I'm sorry, I meant to ask Courtney about this, because the consent agenda has the setting the public hearing about the conflict of interest. And there's a couple things about that in some of the discussions I've had with other people, and like the Planning Commission and elsewhere. How's it determined, is it just because somebody requests, to not vote, that they can say they have a conflict and then it's just assumed that's okay? Or how's it determined, whether that's something that should be granted, and then who grants that ability to, to refrain from voting?
Well, it says that the public official must notify the city either orally or on the record at the meeting, and then it should include the identity of all persons involved in the conflict, the source of the conflict, and then like C says, the monetary value, and then they would do the following. So, I mean, it does say that they would have to disclose that. So based on that information, I mean, people, that would show the conflict.
I guess I'm wondering if it's not expressed clearly, and there's some question about whether there is a conflict or not.
Well, it says in section 6 too that any public official can request the city attorney to provide an opinion. So I mean, I guess if it got to that, then we could have the city attorney review whether they felt like it was a legitimate conflict.
So that either had to be done ahead of time, or you'd have to postpone the action?
I don't know. I mean, Justin, I don't know if you have an opinion. You worked on this more than I did, but I mean, I guess I don't know.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, the idea being that we're identifying conflicts of interest before things come up or before they come to a head at a meeting. You know, there's a clause about, you know, submitting a request to the city attorney to provide feedback on whether something is a conflict of interest. I know that there had been floated an idea for planning to have the city attorney come in and provide a little presentation about conflicts of interest generally. And maybe that's something that council would like to see.
And I think Planning Commission gave some feedback about that they would like to see, you know, some type of little training on that. And I think we should just do training for council and all the boards.
We could do that. Just have a big Zoom meeting and,
Yeah.
you know, invite whoever wants to learn more about it to it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Jim. Donna, looks like your hand is up.
It is. I think it's important when we're in a group and someone says, well, I abstain, conflict of interest. I think we owe the public, and what is that? What is the conflict? I guess that's enough. So I would be anxious to sit in a group and to discuss it. I think that'd be helpful.
Yeah, it's a difficult situation because, you know, it's you're planning for you know, 1,000 different possibilities and trying to put into an ordinance something that could cover all of those potentialities. But it might be a good idea to have the city attorney come and give a little presentation.
Well, are we, Jim or Donna, are you suggesting that like for example, Zach, from time to time when there's a Carlisle Wortman invoice on the bills and payroll, Zach will abstain from the vote. Are you suggesting that prior to doing that, there should be a disclosure of why you're abstaining? Like that could be done under council member reports or something?
I would think so. Because, you know, I mean, that example it makes me wonder, you know, was Zach involved in any of the work done that generated that invoice? And just because he works for that company doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, he would necessarily need to abstain from that if he had no personal involvement in you know, that generating that the work done under that invoice. But that's something that could be clarified by the attorney.
Donna, your hand's still up, but it might be the past one.
Well,
Scott, your hand is also up.
Yeah,
If Donna's done.
I mean, I wasn't prepared
Yeah.
to have a conversation about this tonight being on the consent agenda, but I think generally speaking, the purpose of this is to protect the individuals, to give them a way to avoid entanglements later on, or even the appearance of some situation where in a public capacity, they acted in personal interest. You know, so I think the ordinance is pretty well written. And I think that, you know, and not to pick on Zach, but in his situation, he's a professional working for a consulting firm that has a contract with the city. And in his professional life, there are a lot of judgments that we have to make that may not be black and white, but might be ethical, for example. And so in my business, I will always err on the side of caution when it comes to conflict of interest. We make decisions just about every week about working for people or not working for people based on potential conflicts of interest, and it's usually gray. But in a situation like Zach's, it would be pretty black and white that for him to take an official action regarding a company that he works for, even if he didn't work on the projects that we're paying him for, it's his livelihood is tied to that company. And so, I think it's an important thing for people to have that available as a self-protection measure. And it's also good for the city because, again, it doesn't actually have to be a conflict. Just the appearance of conflict could create problems. So,
Well said, Scott. Jim, did you have your hand up? I saw it flash.
I have a question. Jim, you mentioned that, I thought, maybe I misheard it, but thought that you said that there was discussion among the planning commission about this. Was that a misunderstanding on my part, or some people brought that up?
This was sent to all boards for discussion on it.
Planning talked about having Scott come to a meeting to talk about it, and that was reflected in our memo.
Okay.
That they asked for a further kind of training session on it.
Yeah, but all boards and committees reviewed the ordinance and provided feedback or lack thereof in most cases.
Okay.
But all of them saw it and had a chance to provide feedback if they wanted to.
Thank you.
Okay, we kind of covered that at the tail end of, we'll consider the city manager report. Is it okay to move on to consent agenda?
Yes.
That said, do we want to leave that on consent agenda if we're going to have a meeting with Scott, or?
Well, I think the meetings would be after it was passed as like a training on how to implement the ordinance.
Okay.
It's about
If
implementation.
you want, we can have Scott attend the public hearing to answer any questions at that time as well.
And I move we approve the 4 items listed on the consent agenda: bills and payroll in the amount of $802,319.20. The setting of a public hearing for the conflict of interest ordinance on October 12th. To accept the high bids for the sale of the truck and the lights, and to purchase the RTV from Bouillon Sales at a cost not to exceed $32,200.
So a motion by Fisher. Mr. Smith, you have your hand up?
Yes, support.
Second by Jim Smith. Thank you both. Ms. Jones, please call the vote to approve the 4 items on the consent agenda.
Fisher,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Knight,
Yes.
Cousins,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Bell,
yes.
Keo.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries. We have no old business to discuss this evening. There are 3 items of new business. New business item L1 is consideration of a request for a tap fee payment deferral from Cella's Restaurant at 7065 Dexter Harbor Road.
Justin, can you see if Adrian can be unmuted, please? Mr.
Let's get a motion in place first, Michelle.
Okay, sorry about that. Thanks, Sean.
No, that's okay. I'm happy to let him speak.
Well, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, City Administrator, Council, and staff. We appreciate your considering this motion, and I'm here to answer any questions or to add additional information to support approval of the motion, hopefully.
Okay, do we have a hand up here? Jim, I see your hands up.
Yes, I'll make a motion that we approve the deferral for a time period of 6 months with an option of extending for an additional 6 months at the request of the owner.
Okay, motion by Smith. Scott, I see you have your hand up.
I'll support.
Second by Scott Bell. Okay, motion and seconded. Questions by council or discussion needed?
Not for me.
Oh, Zach, I see your hand. Go ahead. Thank you for your patience.
Just for staff to clarify, is this just adding 6 months on the back end, or is the money in the deferral going to be added to payments between the end of the deferral and the end of the term?
They'd be deferred to the back end. It's not doubling up on any payments within the 5-year period.
So the 5-year period remains?
No,
No,
I'm
it
sorry.
comes 5 years and 6 months,
Correct.
Okay, it just hits the
or
pause.
6 years, right?
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, good clarifying question. Any other comments? Questions? Okay, Ms. Jones, please call the vote to approve. Motion by Smith, seconded by Commissioner Bell, Councilmember Bell.
Smith,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Bell,
Yes.
Knight,
Yes.
Cousins,
Yes.
Keo.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you so much. Much appreciated. Glad to hear your support.
You're very welcome. New business item L2 is consideration of the Metro Act permit application from the Zayo Group LLC.
You want a motion first, Sean?
Yeah, I would like somebody to move it, or if nobody wants to move it,
Zach's
we're
hand is
good.
up.
Oh, okay. I gotta get Zach to use the button. I'm sorry. I don't have him on the screen all the time. Go ahead, Zach. You want to make the motion?
I'll move the recommendation on page, what is this?
69.
Staff report to approve with the 4 conditions listed there. I'm not going to read them unless anyone really wants, but what's on page 69 of the report.
Okay, so motion by Michelle's. Thank you. Scott, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, seconded by Bell. Okay, let's take council questions first. Anything for Michelle?
Julie has one.
Jim?
All right, I can't find the button push, so I'm gonna just raise my hand.
That's okay, Julie. You go ahead. I got you, and then Jim, please.
Thank you. All right, yes, Michelle, I'm looking at the map and I see that there's both yellow lines and blue lines, and I'm assuming they're meaning something. I guess I'm not quite sure what. Could you explain that, please?
So are you talking about the one on the aerial photo map, Julie?
Yes.
So the, excuse me, one set of lines represents the aerial installation, and the other set of lines represents the underground. And you'll have to forgive me, I'm looking for that map.
The legend got cut off a little bit in the online packet.
Okay, so
It's
hang on
page
1 second, and I
99.
can tell you which one is which.
Yeah, I think the blue is aerial and the green is underground.
Yes, that's true.
The blue is aerial and
The blue is aerial and the green is underground.
okay, thank you. You've answered my question.
Okay.
And I know there was some concern about being in the area of the sanitary system there.
Right.
So that will be overhead there, correct?
Correct. That I didn't, it's not in my report because it's an extremely long process, but DTE was extremely instrumental in working with the city to change a utility pole out that they had slated for removal and replacement. But the fact that we needed this to happen sooner rather than later, I mean, they got this done within a 30, less than 45 days. I mean, DTE really, I can't give them enough credit for this.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, Jim, I think you still had your hand up next.
Yep, the question's been answered.
Okay, great. Great, just wanted to make sure. Other questions for Michelle or staff? Okay, Ms.
If
Jones.
if
Go
I
ahead, Michelle.
could, the applicant, Mr. Babinski, is online today. He is the applicant if you had any questions for him.
Welcome, Greg. I don't think there's any questions. Does anybody have questions for Greg? Okay. Ms. Jones, if you'd please call the vote to approve.
Yes. Knight,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Bell,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Cousins,
Yes.
Keo.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Our last new business item this evening is consideration of a resolution regarding the Dexter City Charter Amendment ballot proposal. Mr. Smith, you have your hand up?
Yes, I'll move to approve the resolution on pages 106 and 107 of the packet.
Okay, Mr. Bell, I see your hand is also up.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Smith, second by Bell to approve the resolution as presented in the packet. Any discussion required or necessary? Zach, I see your hand.
Yep. Although I support absolutely everything mentioned in here and the reasons why, for me, I'm not fully comfortable taking a stand as a body politic that says we don't support this. Although it technically doesn't cross the line for the law where it says vote no or vote yes, it's a bit close for my comfort. So even though I agree with everything in here, I'm going to be voting no on it.
Okay.
The actual guidance from the Secretary of State is that council can take a position on an issue. They just can't expend funds to say yes or no. So we do have guidance from the Secretary of State that explains. It's just like how we took action on the vote for the county-wide road millage. You know, council took action in support of that millage, which was actual financial. So it's really just, the letter specifically says that, you know, councils are looked to take position on issues. So we just couldn't, you know, buy signs or something that say, you know, vote no. But that is the guidance that we found.
No promulgation of this in any manner that requires public expenditure or.
Yeah, we're not like sending it out.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that clarification. That makes me feel more.
Yeah, we can the things that we're prohibited from doing are things like mass mailers, television ads, signs, the normal methods of communication that City Council has open to it or would otherwise use for these types of items are permitted.
Thank you, Justin. Good question, Zach. Are there other questions? Okay, seeing none, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Jones, if you'd call the vote to approve the resolution.
Yes. Cousins,
Yes.
Knight,
Yes.
Bell,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Keo.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries. We're down to council comments. I'm going to take the student reps first. Alex, are you ready this evening?
Oh, sorry. No comment.
No problem, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, good. Thanks for joining us. Bella?
Hi, I have no comment.
Okay, thanks again for joining us. Ms. Fisher?
Not for me tonight, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Knight?
Yes, I do have a couple comments. Thank you. I do
Okay.
have to admit, I snuck out and walked on the new park walk the other day, the new section of it. I did it Sunday morning when there was no construction on it. It's absolutely fabulous. I'm excited for it to open up to the public. So that was very, very nice. I also have a couple other comments I would like to make on the residents here at 150 Jeffords. I know we had a pretty serious sewer backup and came into the garage. And I'm sure Dan is very much aware of that. And I don't know if he's going to report on that in his next report or not, but I think that's getting resolved through Gunther and homeowners association company that they've hired. I was out of the area at the time it happened, but I think that's getting resolved. But it was pretty serious, I think. Also, I've had a couple of the neighbors here on the second floor that live at each end of the building. And of course, that's right where those street lights are. And the street lights do shine right into their home. I don't know if anyone has brought it up to anyone in the city offices yet or not, but there was some concern about that because they are quite
Not that
bright.
I'm aware of. I think we can see if those could have like a shield put on the house side.
Right.
I can talk with Kurt about it in the morning if you'd like.
Would that be up to the homeowner to deal with Gunther on that, or the city, or all three together, or?
Yeah, no, I can just ask her if those are able to have the shield. So let us try that first, because we know we have areas where they're shielded on one side. So.
Oh, okay. So you just on the side that shines into the
it doesn't need to go through Gunther, no.
Yeah. And then the third, what I just learned this tonight. The homeowners here in the, I guess we're not homeowners, we're condo owners in the complex here are talking about, forming our own HOA and getting away from the one that Gunther provided for us, which is Pinnacle. And I think if we do that, which we want to do it fairly soon, I think we may be asking for someone from the city offices to come and work with us on that and give us some direction in different areas. So I just want to make you aware of, we may be contacting you and asking for your assistance on that.
I'm sorry, Julie, did you say that they've made Pinnacle the HOA or the management company for the HOA?
Gunther currently has Pinnacle as a management company.
Okay, and has
when we take it over as residents, I guess we can hire our own company or stay with Pinnacle, whatever we choose to do. So.
Right. Yeah, no, we're happy to talk to you about that, Julie. So just.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
And Dan wasn't aware of that issue, Julie, so we'll follow up with Gunther and figure out what you're.
Well, and some of the residents, in talking with them, well, I guess what the problem was is unit 204, which is on the second floor, they were saying some of the construction workers threw some materials down the toilet and it plugged up the whole system. I mean, it came right out through the garage ceiling.
Yeah, well, we can check in with them and see if they need any assistance with.
I called both our lead operators. I did not have any idea either. And we're here to help, whether it's your problem or our problem. All I need to do is
wow. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. But I guess, and then some of the residents really do feel it's okay to put flushable wipes in the toilet. And I said, no, I know it's not.
Yeah, no, we do a lot of education on that. I think, forget if it's in this version of the newsletter, but we can continue to do email updates. I know we have a lot of the contact info for those new residents, so we can continue to provide reminders that anything. Really, it's just supposed to be toilet paper, and that's really about it. So.
Okay.
And Julie, a lot of times too, with these new construction projects, there's a lot of different things that ends up, and we try to work with the builders and the contractors to make sure that they're doing what they need with drywall, mud, and different materials also.
Yeah, okay.
So this could have been in there for a while.
Okay. I'm good.
Okay. How about Jim Smith, please?
I'm good for tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Paul Cousins?
Just happy that finally the pool is finished and God decided that it's going to get cold, so we can't use it. So we'll probably close it up here in a couple of weeks and start again in spring. You'll all be invited in the springtime for a pool activity.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Zach, how about you go next, please?
Yep, I will piggyback on Ms. Knight's comment about the streetlights. I would hope that the next time when we get around to replacing them all, that we consider something that does a better job of directing light downwards instead of upwards into the heavens. I know people like the neo-traditional cast iron look, but it's really not good for putting light on the ground and not everywhere else. let's see. It's been a little while, so I just wanted to clarify again with the Carlisle Wortman. It's a wonderful example to provide. Their contract with the city predates my time living in the city, and my actual employment with them was facilitated by a third-party recruiter via LinkedIn. So it was all no-name type stuff. And if anyone's ever looking for a job, find yourself one of those recruiters. It's awesome. They apply to jobs for you. I highly recommend that process. And that's all that I've got.
Gotcha. No, I think everything you're doing, Zach, with abstaining in the right way is above board. So,
Just don't let my wife find about LinkedIn so she can apply a job for me, okay?
and last but not least, Mr. Bell.
I'm good. No comments tonight.
Okay, I think we are back around to non-arranged participation. Justin, help me if you see anybody with their hand up. Again, if you're calling in, *9 on your cell phone will alert us that you want to speak. Seeing no hands in the air.
Make a
seek
motion to adjourn.
Motion by Cousins.
Second.
Second by Ms. Knight. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Have a great week, everybody.
Have a good week.
Thank you. You all too.
See y'all later. Bye now.
Be safe.
Thank
Bye.
you. Good night.